Jake Morrison floated in the observation deck of the orbital station New Horizon, watching the stars through the massive windows. The coffee in his magnetic cup had gone cold hours ago, but he didn't care. Something felt wrong today. The deep space sensors had been picking up strange readings for the past week. "Commander Morrison, you need to see this." The voice belonged to Lieutenant Sam Torres, who was running toward him with a tablet in his hands. His face was pale. Jake took the tablet and looked at the data. His heart stopped. Massive objects were moving toward Earth from the edge of the solar system. They were huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. And they were moving fast. "How many?" Jake asked. 12 ships, sir. Maybe more. They just appeared out of nowhere." Jake hit the emergency alarm. The station came alive with red lights and sirens. Within minutes, every person on the station was at their post. Jake opened a channel to Earth Defense Command. "This is New Horizon to Earth Command. We have unknown vessels approaching the solar system." "Repeat, unknown vessels." The response came quickly. "Copy that, New Horizon. We're tracking them too. Dr. Lisa Carter is on her way up with the first contact team." Jake had met Dr. Carter before. She was Earth's best expert on alien life, though until today that had been mostly theory. She was smart, calm, and spoke 6 languages. If anyone could talk to aliens, it would be her. The alien ships were beautiful in a terrifying way. They looked like they were made of crystal and metal, with smooth curves that seemed to flow like water. Each ship was at least 5 miles long. They moved without any visible engines, gliding through space like ghosts. Dr. Carter arrived on New Horizon with her team just as the alien fleet stopped near Jupiter. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but Jake could see the excitement and fear in her face. "Any communication attempts?" she asked. "Nothing yet. They're just sitting there watching us." For 6 hours, the alien ships did nothing. Earth's military scrambled every available vessel. Admiral Rick Stone ordered all defense platforms to ready their weapons. Though everyone knew their missiles and lasers were probably useless against such advanced technology, then the message came. It started as a beam of light directed at Earth's main communication satellites. The signal was complex, filled with mathematical patterns and strange harmonics. Dr. Carter and her team worked for hours to decode it. "It's incredible," Dr. Carter said, her voice full of wonder. "They're not just sending words. They're sending entire concepts, complete with emotional context and cultural background." Jake watched as the translation appeared on the screens around the station. At first it seemed peaceful. The aliens called themselves the Valathran Hegemony. They spoke of order, prosperity, and the benefits of joining their vast empire that spanned hundreds of worlds. But as Dr. Carter's team dug deeper into the message, the true meaning became clear. "Commander," Dr. Carter said, her face now white with shock, "this isn't a greeting. It's a demand for surrender." The message was clear once fully translated. The Valathran Hegemony had observed Earth for many years. They had decided that humans were a suitable worker species with the right physical and mental capabilities for labor. Earth would be added to their empire. Humans would serve the hegemony as miners, builders, and servants. The message continued with what the aliens thought were generous terms. Humans who cooperated would be fed and housed. Children would be educated to serve more effectively. The strongest humans would be allowed to breed to create better workers. Those who resisted would be eliminated. The aliens gave Earth 72 hours to surrender completely. All military forces would be disbanded. All governments would be dissolved. Humanity would kneel before their new masters. Jake felt sick to his stomach. These aliens didn't see humans as equals or even enemies. They saw them as animals to be domesticated. "They can't be serious," Lieutenant Torres said. "They are," Dr. Carter replied. "According to their cultural data, they've done this to dozens of other species. To them, this is normal. They believe they're doing us a favor." Admiral Stone's voice came over the communication system. "All stations, this is Earth Command. The alien demands have been reviewed. We will not surrender. Repeat, we will not surrender. All units prepare for combat." The Valathran response was swift. 3 of their ships moved toward Earth's outer defense satellites. There was no visible weapons fire, no explosions. The satellites simply stopped working. Their power died, their weapons went offline, and they began drifting in space like dead metal. "How did they do that?" Jake asked. "Some kind of energy beam," reported the sensor operator. "It's like they just turned off all the electronics." On Earth, emergency meetings were taking place in every major city. President Helen Baker addressed the world from the emergency bunker in Colorado. Her message was simple: Earth would fight. Humanity would never bow to alien masters. But privately, military leaders knew the truth. Earth's weapons were primitive compared to the alien technology. Their ships were faster, their defenses stronger, and they could disable human technology from a distance. The war would be short and brutal. Dr. Carter worked frantically with her team to learn everything they could about the aliens from their communications. The Valathrans were tall, elegant beings with translucent blue skin and large eyes. They had ruled their empire for over 1,000 years, adding new species whenever they found ones that could serve their needs. "They're not evil," Dr. Carter explained to Jake as they watched the alien fleet move closer to Earth. "That almost makes it worse. They genuinely believe they're helping us by giving our lives structure and purpose. They can't understand why anyone would want to be free." The 72 hours passed quickly. Earth's defenses took position around the planet and its colonies. Every human with military training reported for duty. Civilian ships were converted into weapons platforms. It wouldn't be enough, but humanity would go down fighting. When the deadline passed, the alien fleet moved toward Earth. Their ships spread out, surrounding the planet like a net. Then came the second message, shorter than the first. "Your resistance is noted and will be corrected. Cleansing protocols will now begin." Jake Morrison gripped the arms of his command chair and watched the most advanced human civilization prepare to face extinction. But in his heart, he made a promise. If humanity somehow survived this, the aliens would regret ever coming to Earth. The war for Earth's freedom was about to begin. 6 months had passed since the Valathran ships first appeared in Earth's sky. The war lasted exactly 18 days. After that, the chains came. Steve Collins crouched in the ruins of what used to be downtown Chicago, watching the work crews through his binoculars. Hundreds of humans in gray uniforms moved like ants, digging massive holes in the ground under the watchful eyes of their blue-skinned masters. The Valathrans stood 12 feet tall and moved with flowing grace that reminded Steve of dancers. But there was nothing beautiful about what they were doing. "How many guards?" whispered Kate Williams from beside him. The former engineer had become Steve's second in command in the resistance cell. Her blonde hair was now cut short and dirty, her clothes torn from months of hiding in the underground tunnels. "4 Valathrans, maybe 20 human collaborators," Steve replied. The collaborators were the worst part. Some humans had chosen to serve their new masters willingly, hoping for better food and shelter. They carried electric sticks and weren't afraid to use them on their own kind. Chicago had fallen on the 5th day of the war. Steve remembered watching the Valathran ships hover over the city, their energy weapons carving through buildings like they were made of paper. The human military fought bravely, but their missiles simply bounced off the alien shields. Their fighter jets crashed when the aliens turned off their engines from miles away. The surrender came when the Valathrans destroyed half of New York City in 30 minutes. President Helen Baker, speaking from her underground bunker, announced that Earth would accept alien rule to prevent more civilian deaths. Steve had watched the broadcast while hiding in the subway tunnels, tears of rage streaming down his face. "Tony, what's the situation at the medical center?" Steve asked into his radio. Tony Garcia's voice crackled back from across the ruined city. "Same as always. They're taking the strong ones for the heavy labor camps. The smart ones go to the research facilities. Everyone else goes to the general work crews." Steve's jaw tightened. The Valathrans had divided humanity into categories like livestock. They studied humans for weeks before deciding where each person would serve best. Children were taken from their parents and put in special schools where they learned to obey without question. The elderly and sick simply disappeared. "Any word from the government?" Kate asked. "President Baker is still alive in the Colorado bunker," Steve said. "But she can't do much. Most of the military command is dead or captured. We're on our own." The resistance cells operated from the ruins of major cities and hidden bases in the mountains. They had maybe 10,000 fighters across the whole planet. Against the Valathran Empire's millions of ships and soldiers, it seemed hopeless. But Steve refused to give up. The aliens treated Earth like they had treated dozens of other worlds. They built massive factories and mining operations, all powered by human labor. The strongest humans were sent to dig rare metals from deep underground. The smartest were forced to operate alien machinery they barely understood. Everyone else built roads, cleared rubble, and served their masters however they were ordered. Dr. Lisa Carter had been captured during the 3rd day of fighting. Steve had received reports that she was being held at a research facility in what used to be Los Angeles. The aliens were fascinated by human biology and wanted to understand how to make humans work better and live longer. They planned to modify human genetics to create more obedient workers. "We got a message from Jake Morrison." Tony's voice came over the radio again. "He's still alive up there." Jake had managed to escape when the New Horizon station was captured. He was hiding somewhere in the asteroid belt with a small group of survivors, using damaged ships to launch hit-and-run attacks on alien supply convoys. It wasn't much, but it proved that humans could still fight back. Steve watched as the work crews below finished their shift. The humans walked in perfect lines toward the dormitory buildings the aliens had constructed. The buildings looked efficient and clean, but Steve knew they were just prettier prisons. Each person got a small room, basic food, and 6 hours of sleep before the next work shift began. "I intercepted some alien communications last night," Kate said. "My equipment isn't great, but I think I understood part of it. They're planning something called Phase 2. "What's Phase 2? From what I could translate, they want to start changing humans genetically, making us more docile, stronger, better workers. They've done it to other species before." Steve felt sick. The aliens didn't just want to enslave humanity. They wanted to change what it meant to be human altogether. In a few generations, Earth's children would be different creatures entirely, bred and modified to serve alien masters. "There has to be something we can do," Steve said. Kate pulled out a tablet she had stolen from an alien facility. The screen showed technical diagrams that hurt to look at directly. "I've been studying their technology. It's incredibly advanced, but it all seems to work on similar principles. Quantum resonance, energy manipulation, stuff that's way beyond what we had before the invasion. Can we use any of it? Maybe. I think their confidence is actually their weakness. They use the same designs on every world they conquer. Same communication systems, same power sources, same control mechanisms. If we could find a way to disrupt one part of their network." Steve nodded. It was a thin hope, but it was better than nothing. The Resistance had to find a way to fight back before Phase 2 began. Once the aliens started changing human genetics, it might be too late to save their species. That night, Steve's team raided an alien supply depot on the outskirts of the city. They moved quietly through the ruins, avoiding the flying patrol drones that swept the area every few hours. The depot was guarded by 2 Valethrans and a dozen human collaborators. The fight was brief and brutal. Steve's people had learned that the aliens were tough but not invincible. A good rifle shot could hurt them, and explosives could damage their equipment. The human collaborators fell quickly once they realized their alien protectors were down. Inside the depot, Kate found something interesting. Among the supplies were communication devices, portable computers, and what looked like technical manuals written in the Valethran language. She grabbed everything she could carry. "This might be enough to start figuring out how their systems work," she said excitedly. As they prepared to leave, Steve looked up at the night sky. The stars were still there, but now they seemed cold and hostile. Somewhere up there were more Valethran worlds, more enslaved species, more aliens who thought humanity existed only to serve them. But Steve Collins had been a Marine before the invasion. He had sworn an oath to protect Earth and its people. That oath didn't end just because the enemy had better weapons. If the aliens thought humans would simply accept slavery forever, they were about to learn how wrong they could be. The Resistance would find a way to fight back. And when they did, the Valethrans would discover that enslaving humanity was the biggest mistake they had ever made. Dr. Paul Mason wiped sweat from his forehead as he stared at the alien device on his workbench. The underground laboratory hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains buzzed with activity. 30 of Earth's best scientists worked around the clock trying to understand technology that seemed impossible. "Any progress?" asked Dr. Nancy Ford as she entered the lab. The xenobiologist looked exhausted. She had been studying captured Valethran biological samples for 3 months without much sleep. "I think I'm starting to understand their power systems," Paul said. "Everything they build uses quantum resonance patterns. It's like their entire civilization runs on the same frequency." Paul had been a weapons engineer before the invasion. He had designed missiles and energy weapons for Earth's military. None of them had worked against the aliens, but that failure had taught him something important. The Valethrans didn't just have better technology. They had completely different technology. "That could be useful," Nancy said. "If they all use the same frequency, maybe we can disrupt it." "That's what I'm hoping." The hidden facility had been built years before the invasion as a secret research base. When the Valathrons conquered Earth, most people forgot it existed. President Helen Baker had been using it to coordinate what remained of Earth's government. Now it served as humanity's last hope for developing new weapons. Kate Williams had escaped from Chicago 2 weeks earlier, bringing stolen alien equipment and technical data. She worked with Paul's team to reverse engineer everything they could capture. Progress was slow, but they were learning. Kate found something interesting in the communication logs, Nancy said. The Valathrons aren't the original builders of their technology. Paul looked up from his work. What do you mean? According to their own records, the Valathrons were conquered about 2,000 years ago by something called the Architects. They were modified just like they want to modify us. Now they serve as administrators for the Architect Empire. So they're slaves too? More like middle management? They think they're in charge, but they're just following orders from something else. This information changed everything Paul thought he knew about their enemies. The Valathrons weren't an ancient race of conquerors. They were another conquered species, modified to serve masters they might never even see. Do we know anything about these architects? Paul asked. Not much. The Valathrons seem afraid to even mention them directly, but I found references to hundreds of other species in their database. We're just the latest addition to a very long list. Paul's hands shook with anger as he turned back to the alien device. Somewhere in the galaxy, creatures he couldn't imagine were collecting species like stamps. Earth was just another world to be harvested. Its people just more workers for their endless empire. Jake Morrison's voice suddenly came over the communication system. Underground base, this is Raider 1. Are you receiving? Paul hit the respond button. We hear you, Jake. What's your status? I'm in the asteroid belt with 15 ships. We just captured a Valathran scout vessel. The crew is dead, but their computers are intact. I'm sending you the data now. The information that came from Jake's raid was incredible. The scout ship's computers contained detailed star charts showing the locations of dozens of Valathran worlds. There were mining colonies, research stations, and factory planets spread across hundreds of light years. Earth was just one small part of a massive empire. Paul, you need to see this, Kate called from across the lab. She was studying the alien ship designs on her computer. Every single Valathran vessel uses the same basic systems. Same power cores, same shields, same weapons. They haven't changed their designs in centuries. Paul walked over to look at the data. Kate was right. The aliens had become so confident in their technology that they never bothered to improve it. Every ship, every station, every piece of equipment followed the same patterns. This is their weakness, Paul realized. They're so sure their technology is perfect that they've made everything exactly the same. If we can find a way to attack one part of their system, we can attack all of it. What do you mean? Think about it like a computer virus. If every computer in a network runs the same software, one virus can infect all of them at the same time. Kate's eyes lit up with understanding. We could create some kind of quantum disruption that would affect every Valathran device at once. Exactly. Nancy had been listening to their conversation. I might be able to help with that. I've been studying Valathran biology, and I've discovered something interesting. Their nervous systems are partially artificial. They have implants that connect them to their technology. What kind of implants? The same quantum resonance systems they use in their ships. If we could create a disruption that affects their technology, it might affect them directly too. Paul felt excitement building in his chest. For the first time since the invasion, they had a real chance to fight back. Not just to annoy the aliens or slow them down, but to actually hurt them. We need more data, Paul said, and we need to test our theories. I might be able to help with that too, Nancy said quietly. I've been working on something else. A biological weapon, Paul stared at her. Nancy Ford had been one of Earth's most peaceful scientists before the invasion. She had dedicated her life to studying alien life in hopes of making contact with friendly species. Now she was talking about biological weapons. What kind of weapon? Kate asked. A virus that targets Valathran neural pathways. Their implants make them vulnerable to certain kinds of infection. I call it liberation. How does it work? It attacks the connection between their brains and their technology. Infected Valathrans lose motor control within hours. They can't move, can't speak, can't operate their equipment. They just lie there, conscious but helpless. Paul felt a chill run down his spine. The weapon Nancy described was horrifying but also perfect. The aliens had shown no mercy to humanity. They deserved none in return. Can we deploy it through their communication systems? Paul asked. I think so. Their implants receive data constantly. If we could inject the virus into their network, every Valathran in the solar system would be infected at the same time. The three scientists looked at each other in silence. They were talking about genocide, not just killing soldiers or destroying ships, but wiping out an entire species. Before the invasion, the idea would have been unthinkable. Now it seemed like justice. There's something else, Kate said softly. Dr. Carter managed to get a message out from the facility where she's being held. The Valathrans are almost ready to begin genetic modification of humans. They're going to start with children. How long do we have? Weeks, maybe less. Paul made his decision. Then we don't have time for moral debates. We build the weapon, we test it, and we use it. All of it. What about after? Nancy asked. What happens when every Valathran in the solar system is dead? Paul looked at the star charts Jake had sent them. Hundreds of Valathran worlds spread across the galaxy. Billions of aliens who thought humanity existed only to serve them. Then we take their ships, Paul said, and we go pay a visit to the rest of their empire. For too long, humanity had been the victims. The aliens had made the mistake of leaving humans alive long enough to study their technology. Now Earth was about to show the galaxy what happened when you tried to enslave the human race. The Valathrans had demanded submission. Instead, they were going to get extinction. The day of liberation began at exactly midnight Greenwich Mean Time. Steve Collins pressed the detonator in his hand and watched the alien power station explode in a brilliant flash of blue light. Around the world, similar explosions lit up the night sky as resistance cells launched simultaneous attacks on Valathran installations. Phase 1 complete, Kate Williams reported through the radio. All quantum disruptors are active. The quantum disruptors were Paul Mason's masterpiece, hidden inside captured Valathran equipment. They sent out specific frequencies that made alien technology malfunction. Across Earth, Valathran ships fell from the sky as their engines failed. Defense shields collapsed. Communication systems went silent. Steve watched with satisfaction as the tall blue figures that had enslaved his world stumbled and fell. Dr. Nancy Ford's virus, Liberation, was spreading through their implants faster than anyone had hoped. The first infected Valathrans had begun collapsing within minutes of the attack's start. Tony, what's happening at the labor camps? Steve called into his radio. The guards are down, Tony Garcia replied from across the ruined city. All of them. The human collaborators are trying to maintain order, but the workers are fighting back. It's chaos, good chaos, Steve thought. After 8 months of slavery, humanity was finally breaking its chains. In the underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, President Helen Baker watched the global uprising on dozens of screens. The hidden base had become the coordination center for humanity's revenge. Every resistance cell, every captured weapons cache, every piece of stolen alien technology had led to this moment. Ma'am, we're getting reports from all over the planet, reported Colonel Amy Rodriguez, one of the few military officers to survive the invasion. The virus is working better than expected. Valathran casualties are at 90% and climbing. Any word from Jake Morrison? He's engaging the command ship behind Jupiter. The space battle is intense, but our modified ships are holding their own. In the asteroid belt, Jake Morrison gripped the controls of his flagship, the converted mining vessel Freedom's Edge. Around him, 30 human ships engaged the massive Valathran command vessel in desperate combat. The alien ship was 5 miles long and bristled with weapons, but its systems were failing as the quantum disruptors did their work. All ships, target their main power core, Jake ordered. Hit them with everything we have. Human ships never designed for war rammed themselves into the alien vessel's hull. Their crews knew they were probably going to die, but they didn't care. Earth's children deserved a future free from alien masters. The Valathran command ship tried to fight back, but its weapons systems kept failing. Jake watched as sections of the great vessel exploded in chain reactions. The aliens inside were probably already dead or dying from the liberation virus, but he wanted to make sure their ship could never threaten Earth again. On Earth's surface, the liberation was turning into something darker. In the ruins of New York, former slaves cornered a group of Valathran administrators who had managed to avoid infection. The aliens tried to surrender, offering to leave Earth and never return. The humans killed them anyway. Dr. Lisa Carter, finally free from the research facility where she had been held prisoner, stood in the alien laboratory that had been her prison. Around her lay the bodies of her captors, their tall forms twisted in the final stages of neural paralysis. She should have felt pity for them. Instead, she felt nothing but cold satisfaction. The aliens had been preparing to perform genetic experiments on human children the next day. Carter found the detailed plans on their computers. The Valathrans intended to remove the parts of human DNA that made people capable of rebellion or independent thought. They wanted to create a race of perfect slaves. "Dr. Carter, are you all right?" The voice belonged to a young soldier who had come to rescue her. "I'm fine," Carter replied, though she knew she would never be the same. 8 months of captivity had changed her in ways she was only beginning to understand. "Have you secured the alien databanks?" "Yes, ma'am. We've got everything. Ship design, star charts, communication codes, the whole Empire's layout." Carter nodded. The information would be useful for what came next. Because this was just the beginning. Earth had learned that the galaxy was full of species that thought humans existed only to serve them. It was time to teach the galaxy otherwise. Paul Mason's voice came over the facility's communication system. "All teams report. How are we doing?" Reports flooded in from around the world. Every major Valathran installation had been destroyed or captured. The alien population on Earth was effectively extinct. Liberation had worked even better than hoped, killing nearly every Valathran within hours of infection. "What about their off-world reinforcements?" President Baker asked. "Long-range sensors show Valathran fleets moving toward Earth from multiple systems," Jake Morrison reported from space. "They'll be here in 3 to 4 weeks. Will they be expecting resistance?" "Doubtful. Their last communication from Earth was 8 hours ago before we started the attack. They probably think this is just another routine supply run." Carter smiled grimly. The arriving aliens would find Earth very different from what they expected. Instead of a conquered world full of human slaves, they would find a planet armed with their own technology and very angry about 8 months of enslavement. Kate Williams had spent the day studying captured Valathran ships and weapons. The aliens' overconfidence had been their downfall. They used the same designs on every world, never imagining that their slaves might learn to turn those designs against them. "We can have a fleet ready in 2 weeks, Kate reported. Not just Earth ships with alien weapons, but actual Valathran vessels with human crews. How many ships? Maybe 200. Not enough to match their fleet directly, but enough to cause serious damage if we use them right. President Baker stood up from her command chair. For 8 months she had hidden underground, coordinating a resistance that seemed hopeless. Now she was planning humanity's first interstellar war. Ladies and gentlemen, the Valathrans made a critical error when they decided to enslave humanity instead of simply destroying us. They gave us time to study their technology and learn their weaknesses. Now we're going to use everything they taught us against them. Around the world, human beings who had spent months as slaves were learning to pilot alien spacecraft. Former miners operated weapon systems more advanced than anything Earth had ever built. Engineers who had been forced to build alien facilities now worked to convert them into weapons factories. The Valathran reinforcement fleet would arrive in 3 weeks, expecting to find their administrators in control of an obedient human workforce. Instead, they would find a species that had learned to hate with perfect clarity. Steve Collins stood in the ruins of Chicago, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there were hundreds of Valathran worlds, billions of aliens who thought humanity was just another slave species to be exploited. They had no idea what was coming for them. The aliens had demanded Earth's surrender. They had received humanity's submission. But what they got instead was something they never expected. A species that remembered every moment of humiliation, every dead friend, every destroyed city. A species that had spent 8 months learning to use alien technology for one purpose: revenge. Jake Morrison's voice crackled over the radio from his damaged ship. "All units, this is Admiral Morrison. The command vessel is destroyed. Jupiter space is clear. Earth is officially free. Free, but not safe, not yet." The Valathrans had made the mistake of teaching humanity that the galaxy was full of enemies. Now Earth was going to return the lesson. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the warship Retribution, watching the blue marble of Velith Prime grow larger on the main screen. It had been 1 year since Earth's liberation, and now humanity's fleet hung in orbit around the Valathran homeworld like a promise of death. "All ships report ready for final assault," reported Captain Amy Rodriguez from her position at the communications console. The former colonel now commanded Earth's largest battle group, 200 ships strong, all equipped with weapons that made Velethran technology look primitive. Jake nodded grimly. The fleet that surrounded Veleth Prime was nothing like the desperate collection of converted mining ships that had fought to free Earth. These were purpose-built warships, designed by human engineers who had spent a year studying every weakness in alien technology. They were faster, stronger, and deadlier than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Any response from the surface? Jake asked. They're trying to surrender, Amy replied with disgust. The Velethran High Council is offering to make humanity equal partners in their empire. Too late for that. On the planet below, millions of Valethrans huddled in their crystal cities, finally understanding what terror felt like. For 1,000 years they had conquered world after world, enslaving species after species, never imagining that one of their victims might fight back. Now Earth's children had come calling, and they brought extinction with them. Dr. Paul Mason's voice came over the ship's communication system from his laboratory, deep within the Retribution's hull. Admiral, the enhanced liberation virus is ready for deployment. This version will spread through their atmosphere within hours. No survivors, understood. Prepare for release on my command. The virus had been Paul's obsession for the past year. The original liberation had killed every Velethran on Earth, but Paul wanted something more thorough for their homeworld. The enhanced version would not only kill every Velethran on the planet, but render it uninhabitable for their species forever. It was genocide on a scale that would have horrified pre-invasion humanity. Now it just seemed like justice. President Helen Baker's image appeared on Jake's personal screen. She was speaking from Earth, addressing the human fleet directly. Citizens of Earth, today we finish what the Velethrans started when they came to enslave our world. Let the galaxy know that humanity remembers its enemies. Around Veleth Prime, human ships moved into final position. They had spent months traveling through Valethran space, systematically destroying every alien colony, station, and fleet they encountered. Billions of Valethrans had already died. Today the rest would join them. Kate Williams, now serving as Earth's chief military strategist, had planned the campaign with mathematical precision. Every Valethran world, every space station, every ship in their empire had been marked for destruction. Humanity would not stop until every member of the species that had tried to enslave Earth was dead. We're receiving a transmission from the surface, Amy reported. It's the Velethran Archon, the same one who delivered their original surrender demand to Earth. Put him on screen. The tall, elegant alien appeared on the main viewer, his translucent blue skin now pale with fear. When he spoke, his voice carried the same arrogance that had doomed his species a year ago. Human fleet, I am Archon Zethvar of the Velethran High Council. We demand to know why you are attacking innocent civilians. We offered your species a place in our empire as valued workers. Your violent response violates every principle of civilized conduct. Jake almost laughed. After a year of hunting Valethrans across the galaxy, he still couldn't believe how completely they failed to understand what they had done to humanity. Archon Zethvar, this is Admiral Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are correct that we violated the principles of civilized conduct. We learned how to do that from you. We can negotiate. Humanity can have full equality in the hegemony. We can share technology, resources, knowledge. There is no need for this violence. You're right. There was no need for violence. But you chose violence when you came to enslave my world. Now you get to live with that choice. For about 10 more minutes. Dr. Nancy Ford's voice came over the communication system from her mobile laboratory ship. Admiral, I'm detecting massive population centers across the planet. Approximately 4 billion Valethrans. The enhanced liberation virus will eliminate all of them within 6 hours of deployment. 4 billion. The number should have meant something to Jake, but it didn't. After spending a year documenting Velethran crimes across dozens of worlds, he felt nothing but cold satisfaction. The aliens had enslaved and murdered countless trillions of beings across their empire. 4 billion seemed like a small down payment on the debt they owed. All ships, prepare for virus deployment, Jake ordered. On the surface of Veleth Prime, emergency broadcasts warned the population to seek shelter in sealed environments. Some Valethrans tried to flee in spacecraft, but human ships destroyed them as fast as they launched. There would be no escape, no survivors, no mercy. Steve Collins, now commanding a squadron of ground assault ships, watched the planet's defense systems try desperately to target the human fleet. The Valethrans had learned to adapt their technology over the past year, but they were still centuries behind human weapons development. Their energy beams dissipated harmlessly against human shields while human plasma cannons carved through alien cities like they were made of glass. "This is for Chicago," Steve whispered as his ships began bombardment of the largest population center. "This is for every human child you plan to turn into a slave." Archon Zethvar appeared on screen again, his composure finally cracking. "Please, there are children here. Innocent beings who never harmed your species." "So were their children on Earth," Jake replied coldly. "You were going to genetically modify them into perfect slaves. Where was your mercy then? We didn't understand. We thought we were helping you, giving your lives purpose and structure. We see now that we were wrong." "Yes, you were wrong, and now you're extinct." Jake turned to Paul Mason's station. "Deploy the virus. All of it." The enhanced liberation virus spread invisibly through Velith Prime's atmosphere, carried by winds and weather patterns across every continent. Within the first hour, Valethran civilians began collapsing in the streets. Within 3 hours, their government and military had ceased to function. Within 6 hours, the planet was silent, but Jake wasn't finished. Even as the Valethran homeworld died, his fleet was preparing for the next phase of their campaign. Earth's intelligence services had identified over 300 Valethran colonies and installations scattered across the galaxy. Every one of them was marked for destruction. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from the other fleets," Amy announced. "Fleet groups Alpha through Delta have completed their missions. The Valethran industrial centers at Kethmar and Vosrai have been eliminated. No survivors. Excellent. What about the outer colonies? Fleet groups Echo and Foxtrot are en route. They should reach their targets within the month." Dr. Lisa Carter, now serving as Earth's head of xenobiological research, had spent the year studying every species the Valethrans had conquered. Her reports painted a picture of an empire built on the enslavement and exploitation of hundreds of different worlds. The Valethrans had destroyed entire civilizations, wiped out species that resisted their rule, and converted living beings into biological machines. They had made the mistake of teaching humanity that such things were possible. Now Earth was returning the lesson with interest. "Ma'am, we're also getting word from the liberated worlds," Amy continued. "The species the Valethrans enslaved are asking what they should do now." Jake considered this. Across the galaxy, billions of beings who had lived as slaves for generations were suddenly free. Some were asking to join Earth's war against their former masters. Others simply wanted to be left alone. Tell them they're free to govern themselves however they choose, Jake decided, but make it clear that anyone who tries to follow the Valethran model of conquest and slavery will face the same fate as their former masters. President Baker's voice came over the communication system again. "All fleet commanders, you've done excellent work. Earth is proud of you. But remember, this is not just about revenge. We're making sure that what happened to our world never happens to anyone else." Jake understood. Humanity had learned a hard lesson about the galaxy's true nature. Space was full of predators, species that viewed other beings as resources to be exploited. Earth would make sure the galaxy learned to fear such predators. As the human fleet prepared to leave Velith Prime's orbit, Jake took one last look at the world below. The planet that had been the center of a slave empire for over 1,000 years was now a tomb. Its cities were silent, its population extinct, its future erased. The Valethrans had come to Earth with a plan of enslavement. They had believed humans would submit quietly to alien rule, grateful for the structure and purpose their masters provided. They had been wrong about humanity's nature in every possible way. Earth's reply to their plan had been simple and final: extinction. Now Jake's fleet turned toward the next Valethran world on their list. The war would continue until every member of the species that had tried to enslave humanity was dead. It would take years, maybe decades, but